Hi everybody, welcome to my first video featuring my voice. With this video, I basically want to show how I go about drawing from photographs. Um, it's not going to be a tutorial, it's just more of a my, showing my process. So today, we're going to work with this photo right here. I do have this photo on my other screen, so I'm gonna get rid of it. So let's get started. Let's see. The brush I like to sketch with is one of these type of brushes. A bit of texture on them. They give you a bit of soft feel with pressure sensitivity. I'll put the brush in the link description. So first thing what I do, well, I mean it's not too different from life drawing, but I usually just start with head. And I chose this photo because it's not very particularly hard pose, right? It's like very simple. Mainly because talking and recording is incredibly difficult. So let's see. So here's her head, neck, her shoulder. Shoulder, I think, is pretty important to capture first, that angle. So I tend to exaggerate the shoulder angle a bit. One thing I'm spoiled with using Photoshop is like when I'm live drawing on a newsprint pad or whatever, you're limited by paper size. But I like to draw big, so I just tend to just draw about this size. But then, you know, if this was a paper size and if I started drawing this big, you know, I already ran out of the room, so I'm in trouble. But with the digital age, that's not a problem. Although it's a terrible thing to get used to, right? But for now, let's just increase our image size here, canvas size. So in the photograph, you know, I'm just gonna simplify things a lot here. Maybe this will be a lot more graphic than how I usually draw. So like that would be like 90-degree angle. Let's take a look here. You know, there's a straight angle, and it's not even a very big exaggeration in this case, right? So also, one thing you might want to look for is the contrast between straights and curves, right? So it's a curve, or I guess in this case it's more of a straight, because compared to all this busy like bump area here, and then here it gets more straight, and then it's a bit more curvy down here. So always play with that. But I try not to look at the photo reference too often, because that tends to dilute the energy of your drawing. when I draw these, I don't pay too much attention to anatomy as much as I should. Mainly when I do these drawing from photographs, what I'm looking for is the reason I started doing these is just to get a sense of what people like, the fashionable clothing. That's the only reason. Like, I don't really so I can get away from drawing like t-shirts and jeans, you know. So I pay more attention to the clothing, how the folds, how it's designed, and the clothing pattern in this case, and color choices. Those are the things I personally, those are my goals for doing these. Because if I were to, but if I wanted to like do actual study of anatomy and people and poses, I think drawing from real life is the way to go. So for me, the easier, the further apart I get from the reality, the easier it is. So I tend to simplify things a lot. Now you see here I made a, well, this is something I need to fix. Right here I made straight here and a curve here, but looking at the reference, what I really want to do is maybe have a straight here and then curve here, because she's leaning, her head is leaning out, whereas what I've drawn here, it emphasizes that she is, you know, her head is more straight upward. So let's, you know, I don't have to change a whole lot, but you know, just a slight, that would help. The way I draw, I tend to, where I want to use straight wherever I can, because it really defines the shape. So let's look at the this reference here. So here, you know, like I could easily just make a round shape like that, right? But I just want to emphasize, so I usually go straight and then curve. Or if I really wanted to, I could go straight and straight. But I want to make it a bit softer, so I decide to go like this. If I make it into, if I want to make it into one shape, then, you know, and I do this sort of thing. Yeah, sure, why not? yeah. I tend to spend most time on just doing the face, because that's where people look at the most. But let's move on. So neck is alright. Let's work on hand. Just leaving this thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, as I do this, I'll explain very simple tricks or key shortcuts I use. These are very basic ones, but once you know them, you'll never not use them ever again. So, okay, first thing, I have my brush, which is B. But then, and to switch the tool to, let's say, eraser, I push E, and then, you know, here we have an eraser. But when you're drawing with brush, and then if you just hold E, it temporarily changes your tool to eraser, and then once you let go, it goes back to brush. It's a great time saver, if you ask me. Another thing, changing brush size. You can use the square brackets. So this will make it bigger, smaller, and this one will make it bigger. All right. Very, very convenient. And sometimes when I want to change the brush size drastically, on the top, well, I think there used to be a, okay, never mind that. Yeah, just use that. I'm new to, I'm using Photoshop CS6. I'm kind of new to it, so there's a subtle differences from CS4, which I used to use. Oh, right, the hand. That's what we're working on. Yeah, I mean, there's no, I don't really have a good structure when doing these. I just, you know, work my way down once I have the general pose down. But that's a good thing about getting the general pose down. So once you have that down, like, you know, you can focus on minor details like, you know, fold of the clothing and stuff without getting too much away from the whole feel of the drawing. All right. Let's keep that hand. Sometimes I just duplicate my layer. If I hold Alt and then just drag up, it makes another copy. So first one, I just leave it as backup in case I like mess things up royally. then you know I go back, and it's a nice backup to have. So this dress has interesting fold. It kind of comes together right here, and since she's bending down, okay, I'm gonna have to readdress here. Yeah, for this one I was a little bit, let's say her other breast is here, it's a little bit too compact on this side, so let's move it a bit. Yeah. So let's see here. I'm gonna decide to simplify this area like so. If we take a look at the reference. So I'm gonna simplify like so, curve, straight. And then here, right here, I can just decide to go straight like this. Or like there are little folds that look like that. I could try to emphasize it like so. But for me, right now I feel like emphasizing the hip. I guess this is a hip bone right here. So what I decide to do is just give it a little point like this, and then straight down. Yeah, this is where basic anatomy knowledge comes in handy, right? If you look at her, especially the way the clothing is, this is her waist, and then all the clothing is kind of folded right here, so that's, you know, that's where her hip, pelvis sits. So that's what I've done with this. Let's take a look. I like to simplify this a lot more than it is now. So I made another copy just for backup. Let's see. just tweaking things. I think we're ready to just move on. I tend to, what I don't want to do is tighten up too much in this stage, the rough stage, because if I tighten up too much here, when I go to clean up, you know, I tend to follow it, and the results is never too good. So I don't know, I usually turn the opacity to about 10% or lower. Go to, let's call this so what I mean by that is if I make a new decision when I'm cleaning up, it always works out better for me. If I try to clean up and copy the rough line that I had, it's always, for me, I always prefer the rough a little better. But if I keep the rough not as tight, then when I clean up, I can make choices that is, I don't know, I don't know if this is any of this making sense, but you know, I like to make better choices when I'm cleaning up instead of being slave to the rough that I've done. I usually make another Windows to put it on my the other monitor. So the way you do it is Windows, arrange, new Windows for this project. So it creates two windows, and it updates the same time, more or less. I keep this on the other window, in a much smaller version. So even when I'm working very tight on my cleanup like this, I look at the other window, much like this Navigator right here, just so that I can see if the whole thing is working properly. Okay. I am using Cintiq 21UX, which helps a lot in doing things like this and cleaning up. Because I'm making like 1 or 2 strokes to get things right the way I like. If I look at a lot of people who use tablet, you know, even getting the one curve, they will have to do it like, you know, like 3-4 times, which translates to a lot of time being used to get the same effect. So if you can afford it, it's definitely an investment. You know, as you grow older, you have less time, more money. So you might want to think about that. I didn't figure out too much what the hair is gonna look like, so I mentioned like I like to keep things rough, but this might be too rough, so I don't know where to go. So what I usually do is just create another layer just to refine things. Just to help me guide so I don't spend too much time experimenting with the clean black line. Alright, I'm happy with that more or less. So I go back to my clean line layer again. I just roughly follow it. Yeah, that's I'm not sure if her face is working out too well. But for the sake of this video, let's move on. Yeah. Because I put a lot of lines on her bun area right here, kind of want to match that up here. And I know that all this hair is, you know, being tied up here more or less, so, you know, focus on getting all that hair in that way. Okay. What I want to avoid is the equal distance between all the lines. It's something I struggle with every day, but you look at the distance here, and then you look at distance here, and you get distance here. It's pretty much like almost the same. That you don't want. Yeah. So just trying to break it apart a bit. Yeah, it's not something I'm very good at, creating randomness. I think it comes easier to some people, but I was never very character-driven person. I was more into layouts when I first started drawing, like back in college. You know, drawing solid structures with perspectives and, you know, all that stuff. Objects. And so it took me a long time to draw a character. Now I prefer to draw a character more than those sort of things, which I need to go back and practice now, because this helps to be well-rounded artist. Especially for me, I want to do more than these sort of character pin-up drawings. You know, that's why being in like comic book or animation is, I think, is helpful to be a well-rounded artist, because you have to do a lot of other things. How I approach fold, I can't explain that much other than I look at how other artists handle it, and you know, just knowing the anatomy underneath the cloth helps it great deal, because you want to emphasize, like, for example, like the shoulder here, there's tension in here and here, and same with breast. Like there's an area of tension, so all the cloth is going to get either like pulled towards it, so that's what you're aiming for. And in case of like breast and like the shoulder area, like, you know, you have a area here, and so all the cloth are gonna get like bunched up down here and like maybe like in between. It depends how the clothing fits. So that's what you want to look for when drawing these things. Like, instead of following the photo references, instead of like really like breaking down, you know, where like this, like the shape of it or anything like that, but what you want is just get the general feel of it, why it is the way it is. For example, yeah, like this is pretty good. Like, she has a shoulder area like this, and you know, there's the cloth hangs a bit right here. Because why? Because she's bending. So there's more of a tension in her back, and so a bit of slack in the front area right here. So you see this area is like this, because the cloth is kind of like bending down, drooping down here, and then when, you know, the breast area, that's where all the tension happens, right? This this photo is a little bit harder to study for that sort of thing because of this crazy pattern. But I think that's what drew me in the first place. So, knowing what we know now, let's see if I can simplify that a bit here. Yeah, I'll just keep it at that. How do I draw hands? Don't ask me that. Oh, I need to practice drawing hands. Oh, that's good enough for my purpose right here. Okay, let's see. What else should we look for in this photo? So, as I mentioned, there's the hip, and I'm just gonna continue all the way down. Like so. Her leg. Yeah, I like that. It's a bit of and also it's important to know, don't just draw a line for the sake of it. But it's good to know where the line starts and ends. Like for example, this line right here. I'm not sure if it's accurate to how it really is, but I'm just decided to draw this line and kind of like point it towards there, so there's a bit of tension, and then it kind of more like droops down like this. It helps, but I think I'm gonna do more of that kind of angle like this. Are we done? Are we done? Let's see. This area is another thing that helps to sell that she is leaning forward. Right here. Right here. Right here. Because if she was leaning, because she is leaning forward, her neck is right up against her collar. And so there's that empty space. If she was leaning back, you might want to exaggerate the other way. You know? Just small things like that helps to sell the what you're trying to do. I'm pretty satisfied with this, I think. Let's not get lazy and let's draw the beam that she's resting on. I always get lazy and don't draw these. Yeah, that's good enough. I'm not gonna do the do all that stuff down here. Yeah. Oh, it's a little bit crooked. Alright. Alright, alright. So here it is. I won't get into color right now because that might take another hour or so. But I hope you enjoyed it. And send me a question through... I'll put an email in the description. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if there's demand for it, I'll go into the color and do that video too. Thank you. See you next time.